Caroline, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do have some public comments tonight.
Can we approve the agenda first, Kim?
Yes, please. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Freya. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sophia. Mary Beth?
I was just going to second. It's fine.
Okay, but...
Aye. Sorry.
Aye. Freya?
Aye.
Lizette?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Caroline? I think that motion passes. First up are communications. So for public comment tonight, we have a few people who would like to speak. Colton, you're up first. And if you would, we're going to keep comments to no longer than 3 minutes. And if, Colton, if you can incorporate I had 2 comments for you. One we actually read yesterday prior to our opening, our closed session. But in any one time frame, we limit just general public comments to 1 comment. So if you choose to incorporate both ideas, please do. Is Colton with us?
He's not connected, Kim. I'm ready to look for him.
Okay, if he comes back during the public comment time, we'll circle back if you see him. Next is Nicholas Rotwinski. Nicholas, are you on?
I am, and my name is Nicholas Rotnewski.
Rotnewski, I apologize for mispronouncing.
All right, thank you. All right. During last month's board meeting, I was taken aback by the lack of professionalism from our district leaders throughout the meeting. When a well-respected teacher and parent was voicing their thoughts and concerns during the public comment portion, a loud, "Oh my God," was grunted in the background from a meeting co-host just after the speaker stated, "Where is the equity and accountability in that spending?" Well, I ask, where is the accountability with professionalism from our district office staff? This is what we call a hot mic moment, and something that should never take place during any type of professional board meeting. Our community deserves better than this. While discussing COVID-19 positivity rates, a senior board member provided insight as to the simple way to identify the rate differential, even though it is represented as a cumulative rate. The counter response from another board member rejected the notion that the rate was able to be calculated via that simple method, and to simply leave it to the professionals, while laughing and stating it would be annoying to have to do. Last I checked, this pandemic was no laughing matter. And while one seasoned board member is bringing accountability and practical responses, others are rambling on about things that provide no productive contribution to a time-sensitive discussion on topics that are critical to our students' future success. Our community deserves better than this. Next, all board members should be visibly present during the board meetings. This is not to say all must have live stream video going, but an image visible to the next other board members on the screen with video off and audio on should be the bare minimum professional expectation of our school board members. Our community deserves better than this. On the CUSD website, under the Safety and Information link, under Parents and School Safety, learn the Big Five. The Spanish PDF version of the Big Five community packet Los Cinco Grandes Paqueta para la Comunidad has no accessible link attached to it. Our community deserves better than this. The CUSD anti-bullying policy and the CUSD school district wellness policy on physical activity and nutrition, both highly important subject matters, continue to not have a link allowing access to these policies on the quick link page, and has had a month to make these corrections since these errors were identified at the last board meeting, though no one would know that unless they attended live. On the discrimination policy link, under support for undocumented students and families, it states that the full text of the above referenced board-approved CUSD resolution is available for download in the links below. You guessed it, there are 0 accessible links to those critical documents that community stakeholders and the public should have easy access to. Our community deserves better than this. Lastly, on the CUSD homepage, it states that CUSD is a place for students to dream and achieve. I end with an ask. What about all of the significant amount of students in the district that are simply dreaming to achieve? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Tina Lorenko. Tina, do we have Tina on?
You guys can hear me?
Yes, hi, Tina.
Oh, great.
Go ahead.
Hi, how you guys doing tonight? Okay, so my name's Tina Lorenko, and I have 2 boys at Cunha Middle School. So basically, there's a group of parents that include myself that were set to rally in front of the district office today for the kids to come back to school when it's deemed safe. We put this on hold due to the current situation, as the county is in purple, and we felt gathering would take away from our message. With that said, why are parents ready to rally and protest? It is because we all want our children back in the classroom safely when the time comes, and we are in orange for at least 2 weeks. When the county, state, federal medical experts are saying kids are safest back in the classroom, and we as parents are not seeing viable movement from the district for that happening anytime soon, it is frustrating and disappointing. First and foremost, children's social, emotional, mental health is greatly being affected, especially at the secondary and high school level. We are seeing it in the news and in our community of children being affected by this. After the meetings I have been attending, it seems that middle and high school are not slated to come back this year unless the district can logistically figure out a way to get them back in the classroom. It sounds like safety procedures are in place, but you can't teach without teachers. The teachers don't want to come back because they don't feel safe. Why is that? Unfortunately, with the contract negotiations that took place in the state of our school campuses, the district has no credibility with them. I know better than to think my kids are going back January 25th. Parents, unless your child is in elementary school, there is hope for you. But for the children in middle and high school, it seems they will not be going back till next school year, no matter what tier below orange we are in. With that said, I would like to propose that we all brainstorm. What are other districts outside the Bay Area doing to get children back in the classroom? Can we utilize asynchronous Wednesdays as an opportunity for children to get back on campus, possibly doing PE, some electives, and science all outdoors? Or letting the students come on campus and offering them what the Boys and Girls Club is offering. I hear their pods are full, which is a good thing, but there is still a need. Something is better than nothing. We need to get creative and not be complacent in our thinking that the options to get these older kids back does not exist. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Next is Heidi Mills.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. Hold on. There we go. Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent McFetridge. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I just want to take a moment to share my heartfelt gratitude to each of you for helping us to come to the wage increase. I know there were many happy tears shed by membership and the community with this announcement. We all know how long and hard fought it was, and I am so grateful. I speak for myself. But speaking of the community, we could not have done this without their outpouring of support. So to each of you listening and watching later, please know how grateful we are to each of you. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. So I'm going to switch hats now. I'm going to switch from my CUTA hat and put on my parental hat for just a moment. I do have 2 students at the high school and 1 at El Granada. And I've sat in lots of meetings, and this a little bit piggybacks on Tina, but a little bit different. There has been so much talk about prioritizing mental health of our students, especially at the high school level, but definitely including middle school and elementary. But the thing is, we trudge on as if business were usual, and really is quite the opposite. Teachers teach because they know what they have to cover. They are experts, and they know in a normal year they've got to get to certain milestones and have their kids ready for finals or AP exams or whatever that necessary, we have grades. So, but we keep saying it, we just kind of keep not acting on it. This is not a normal year. We are in a global pandemic. We cannot expect normal results. So granted that an occasional student may do better under these circumstances, but I'd love to really see some data on the students whose GPAs are dropping. This global pandemic is hard on everybody. I get that we want students to come back. I get that their mental health is suffering, their academics are suffering, but I think we keep saying mental health, mental health. If mental health is the priority, let's prioritize it over critical academic growth and then catch our students up as soon as we can get them back in the classroom, because that's when we can really touch every student and hit them where they need and push them where they need to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heidi. Next is Adriana Valentine.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Adriana.
Okay. Hi, my name is Adriana Valentine. I am a parent of a student at Fairlawn View. I also grew up here in Half Moon Bay. I attended Hatch, Cunha, and Half Moon Bay High School. I am speaking tonight to ask why El Granada and Fairlawn View schools are in such disrepair. The things teachers have told me about the facilities blows my mind. Rats falling out of ceilings, mold, rooms so moldy that the smell is now permeating into rooms next door. Potholes in parking lots, rust in sides of buildings falling down, broken heaters, windows that don't open, floors in classrooms with mold, and the quick fix is to tear out the affected area and just replace the tile with a color that doesn't even match. Maybe if someone figured out why there was mold in the flooring, the classrooms wouldn't have 3 different colored floors. Who knew duct tape was a way to fix something, even if it looks terrible? Yes, I know that some mold work has been taken care of at Fairlawn View, but what about El Granada? Teachers feel like they need to wear a hazmat suit to enter certain rooms. During a typical school year, our children and teachers spend a majority of their day in these classrooms and on the playgrounds. School is like a second home to our children. Would you want to live in a home that is not being taken care of? No matter how sanitary you think the schools are, they still look dingy. This brings me to my second thing I wanted to talk about, school reopening. I know a lot of parents are looking forward to sending their kids back. I know a lot of teachers are excited to have some in-person teaching. However, there are a lot of teachers and parents who do not feel safe. I can only imagine one of the reasons is because of how the schools look. How can we trust the district to keep everyone safe when they can't even properly take care of the facilities at the schools? Students have been out of the classroom since March. I'm curious to know why the district didn't take advantage of that and make the repairs it needed to do to the facilities then or even this fall. Why are you waiting until the last minute to get the schools ready for the students to return? Or do you not have plans on repairing the schools? I know there is talk of Fairlawn View and El Granada, of closing Fairlawn View and making El Granada the North Coast Community School, but that's going to take years to build El Granada. It is your responsibility to provide a safe and clean environment for teachers, students, and staff now. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. I have a comment to read from Dr. Paul Elliott Hughes, a parent and physician. As a parent and a physician, I feel that our children need to return to the classroom for school. I have 3 young children. They are not ready for the advancement of online education, which is more appropriate for older children, such as in high school or college. I have a kindergartner who has never been in the classroom yet for his education, and he is obviously not connecting well with this virtual learning. I feel that there is science that we know of today shows that children are safe and are not unlikely to contract or have problems with this virus, and we should be able to protect our teachers with PPE so they can avoid any ill effects from the virus. Please save the children. Next, we have our employee organization reports. Do we have a CUTA representative?
Point of privilege. I did see Colton Walter as an attendee.
Yeah, he's connected.
Thank you. He wasn't on initially. Hi, Colton. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You have 3 minutes to speak, and I realized that you had one under written. We actually read your written comment yesterday.
Okay.
Feel free to combine both ideas, but you have 3 minutes to speak.
Sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate your time. First off, I want to thank Sean and Sophia for giving all the time you've given me to just having conversations about schools, about funding, about restarts, about all the general topics that I'm curious about. So I want to definitely appreciate all the time that you've provided me. My comment is essentially this. Schools are safer than the broader community. The data is showing, the facts are that a secure and safe school environment is safer than the broader community when it comes to the spread of COVID-19. I added in my written comments 2 data links to a New York Times article, one to a Washington Post article, one from New York City schools, one from Rhode Island schools. And their data is prevalent that the return to school in an in-person setting is beneficial to both the students and the teachers. I think not enough is made of how well the control of open school settings has been handled across this country and across the world, quite frankly. The data suggests that under a controlled setting, this can be done. And I believe we are not incapable of doing this. Furthermore, if you look at the data suggests that because it is actually safer in person in a controlled setting, that I don't understand the rationale behind waiting until our community spread is at an orange tier or a red tier. Los Angeles County schools were approving 30 waivers a day for TK through 2 education. When they were in the purple tier, they never left the purple tier. They just started opening up schools because they realized this fact. When Governor Newsom put his new shelter in place order, he did not restrict schools that were currently open from continuing to be open. This is showing that there's really no worry or fear in our broader leadership community for opening schools or holding schools in person. So I would encourage you, and my ask is this, when you have a date of January 25th, stick with that date, regardless if we're on the orange tier, red tier, or purple tier, because it is in fact, based on data, safer to have kids in school and teachers in school in a controlled and secure environment. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Colton. Next, we have our CUTA representative. I see Claudia. Claudia, you're on mute.
Oh, okay. There we go. Sorry, hard to keep up. Good evening, everyone. I am happy to, first, I'm Claudia Lundstruth, co-president with Sean Reardon of the Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association. I'm happy to be here to express the feelings of relief that teachers have about the contract agreement. These past 2 years have been difficult for most people, and especially so for CUSD teachers who struggle to live and work on the coastside. The commitment teachers feel to CUSD is what motivates teachers to fight for improved compensation. Teachers want to live and work here because it is such an inspiring community. Our students are part of our extended family. We fight to stay with them to help them get the best possible education. Our negotiations team, led by Kathleen Wall, has inspired everyone with their bravery and tenacity, with their willingness to accept accusations of being idealistic, impractical, or even greedy. Students and the entire community have learned from this situation that perseverance and right can prevail. Many thanks to everyone who helped make the new contract happen. I can't say we're looking forward to more negotiations in February, but we do look forward to working to make our contract as fair as possible for everyone. Also, we are excited that CUSD's status as a basic aid district has been confirmed. As we move forward with increased funding, CUTA continues to recommend a thorough examination of the budget. Our robust $39 million budget must ensure that every dollar spent helps all of our students thrive. We need to identify the factors that have a positive effect on student learning and align our financial resources in that direction. We need to know each student, identify the needs of each student, and fund the needs of each student. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Next, I see Stig. You're up.
Good evening, Board President Hines, board members, Superintendent McCreary, staff members, community members. I know that this is probably President Hines' last meeting as board president. I want to thank her for an excellent job she have done. And I also want to congratulate Sophia to continue as a board member for the school board. I know that you all are working really hard, and it's volunteer. That I think some people forget sometimes that this is time and effort that you put in to support the students and the community as the whole. And I want to, from CSA, say thank you for everything you do. And as myself, as the president-elect, I don't get any perks for doing what I'm doing. I'm doing this because I love people, and I know that you're all doing the same. So CSA's next year board going to be one change. It's going to be Kathy Gray, who steps in as CSA still call it secretary. I would actually want to rename that to admin assistant to our board, because she do a great job. She has been involved before, and she knows to put us on our feet so we do the right thing. We have still Steve Goldberg, who is going to be our treasury. I've been for 2 years now together with me. And we have Diane Piolius, the vice president, together with me. And I'm going to continue next year as the president as well, was decided on the last union meeting we had. Other news is that we have filed to the district to start our negotiations here. We're coming up, if the board approve, we're going to start December the 18th. We hope to get this pretty quick and this is not our normal negotiation years. I want to just say that this is a reopener that we always have in our contract. I want to congratulate the teacher for the great, and teacher union for the great job they have done. Working and to get the raise for a teacher, and we hope that we're gonna do the same, and as well as the non-classified staff as well, that they're gonna get the same here. Everyone working and trying to make the life as easy as we can for everyone. keeping everyone up to so they can do their job. And I think that's pretty much it for this time from us. And I think I'll see you next board meeting. If I don't, I hope everyone have a great holiday. Don't spend time with people you usually don't spend time with. Okay, we want to start the schools again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and appreciate that reminder. Next up are board member reports. Is there anyone that would like to start us off? Mary Beth?
Sure, I'll go. I know there's a lot of talk about getting the kids back to school and the plans for back to school and all that. And we are going to have another meeting in December. We have 2 meetings this month in a couple weeks where we're going to talk more about that. But I had an interesting little text string going on with some of my relatives who all work in public schools about, you know, the kids being out of school and the things going around that. And I thought it was kind of interesting. So I thought I might share that with you. And they're in other states, so they're different places across the country. So, and I want to start off by saying that I know many people are struggling with COVID, and I don't want to belittle this because I know there's a lot of struggle. But I was kind of surprised at the positive outlook in this text string, being as these are all people who are, you know, toiling away in the public schools in different capacities. So I thought I'd pass it along. So, you know, the conversation has been a lot around kids are falling so far behind. You know, what are we going to do? How are they going to catch up? But there are good happening too. You know, there's good stuff happening. Kids are learning how to log into Zoom meetings. Kids are troubleshooting technology. They're learning how to troubleshoot glitches when they have it with their technology. They're learning how to communicate their needs. They're adapting to a foreign school environment. These are all life skills that will help them, I think, in the years ahead. And I was surprised to see these other educators, you know, taking such a positive spin on it. So, you know, all this positives going on. And then, you know, the physical therapist cousin jumps into the conversation. And she says, you know, if we can just stop the media, the doctors, the professionals from telling our children how socially, emotionally damaged they are becoming, most kids will be all right. And it got me thinking, you know, we need to be careful about what we say and how we spin things and how that looks. And I thought that was really impactful. And she went on to say, they are only as damaged as we are. So now we know what to work on. And she continued, you know, if we endlessly heard, we're doing good, we've got this, keep it up, you know, we are resilient, we can do this. It's a different message, and it just might help us get to a different outcome. Then, of course, the other side jumps in, though. They say, you know, hey, you know, that's all great, but the other problem is we have this huge increase in physical, mental, sexual abuse being reported that's going on while many of these kids are at home. And it's all increased dramatically during all this. But the first cousin with all the positive jumped back in and said, you know what, right, what is this telling us? This is telling the adults need work here. This is not a kid problem. Those are problems of how the adults are treating the kids. And I hadn't really, I mean, that's obvious, right? But I hadn't really thought of it through that lens that a lot of times when we worry about the kids, we're really worried about what's happening in the adult world to these kids. So I thought it was a good point. And then from there, the text string kind of went on to say, you know, okay, so we have adult problems, we have these kid problems. It's too bad that the Department of Health and the Department of Education aren't working together more. And that's another interesting idea. You know, how do you put all these pieces together? Because we're in this silo with the kids, and then someone else is in the silo over here with, you know, adult mental health, and there's all these different silos, and how do we put them together? And I just really thought that the synergy between the two is really key. I know we've been working with the county some. We got a grant at the high school for emotional support. I know there's some other nonprofit groups doing work that we're partnering with as well, which I think is great. But Cousin Nancy had a great quote that I want to read it word for word because I think I thought it was so good. She said, schools are a great setting to meet so many child and community needs that they need to be funded as such. Then there might be time for teachers to teach their first of many talents. And it just got me thinking, you know, public schools have been a keystone in our culture for a long time. And I think we can do better. So much goes on at school, you know, not only education, but, you know, learning how to act in social settings, how to make friends. You might be getting food at school, learning about nutrition, screening for health problems. You're doing sports and PE, helping with your coordination, learning teamwork. So there's so much going on. And it all just brings about this concept of in striving to do better and in looking ahead at what we're going to do down the line, how do we help? Who do we partner with? You know, who can we partner with to help with some of these adult problems that are affecting our kids? There's always room for improvement. And the question to us is, you know, what are we going to do to get better? And I'm going to end with this. Let me pull it up. If you remember nothing else from my comments tonight, learn this. This is how our text stream ended. You got to see this picture. Can you see this? And the quote is, the caption there says, me as a parent, me as a parent trying to hide my snacks from the unemployed people in the house. So they've got an ice cream sandwich behind a lettuce leaf, hiding it from their kids. So me as a parent trying to hide my snacks from the unemployed people in the house. So that's how it all ended on that note. And I just thought that was kind of funny, kind of bringing it all together, like everyone's trying to survive, but you know, let's try to look at the good things here and take what we can learn and also take this and think down the line, how can we work together? How can we work with other entities? Because we're really seeing the impact now that other problems can have on our kids, and how can we as a, you know, system help all that to get better. So I thought I would share. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Beth. Sophia?
Thank you. So first, I just want to say thank you for all the comments. I always enjoy listening and appreciating them. And I kind of feel, you know, I've been feeling lately like a lot of what the work we've been doing has been leading us up to opening a new chapter for our school community. A lot's happened over the last year, 2 years. But to, you know, I feel like although, you know, we're face a lot of still very, very difficult times, having a better basis for our budget, which Jesus will share today, and being able to kind of catch up on a few really important things and make sure that we're doing our best that we can. I feel like we're at kind of a crossroads now where we're stepping on firmer ground to build a more sustainable plan towards better outcomes for all our students. So it's kind of like a nice way to end the year. The pandemic obviously rages on and has perhaps yet to bring its darkest days. But I feel there's something tangible, and it's, you know, it's really present and it's growing. This network of educators, parents, nonprofit leaders, other leaders from our community and our county, and students themselves, this network is real and it's strong and it's continued to grow and develop. And I feel like there's a shift kind of in our movement from the survival mode to more of a building mode. And I think that's, you know, with kind of concerted effort on all our parts to do that, to kind of have less of a gotcha approach and more of a I've got you approach to all the folks that we work with. You know, and I think that's really important, working methodically and in tandem to align towards those common goals. A lot of what we heard from Ms. Lundstroth and others, and Ms. Mills, and Colton Walter, like a lot of the comments and Tina and everybody, really, it comes down to, we all want what's best for our kids. We might have some different thinking and different approaches to how to get there. I think the key is being able to work together with those differences of opinion and differences of perspective, and honoring those differences in perspective, looking at the data that Colton referred to, the clinical data, the public health data, looking at, some of the cultural factors in our community that influence how we might interpret that data. We've got to look at that whole big picture, the whole, totality of what we have here, and just take care of ourselves. And maybe that means eating an ice cream sandwich with a little lettuce to set a good model for our kids, taking care of each other and really looking at one another, not as adversaries we've got to win or defeat over, which I think, let's face it, sometimes happens. But really to say, we all want the same thing. Let's have it okay to challenge ourselves. And challenge each other, not out of a desire to be victorious or to win or to be right, but to really get the best kind of outcomes for our entire school community. And that's going to require a lot of trust. And that's clearly, something that needs to be worked on. And that's something that I don't want to say it's a two-way street. It's like a 45-way street of we've all got to be able to be willing to give each other the trust to do that. And knowing that this, differences in perspectives don't indicate something deeper about value or, things like that might seem more nefarious. It's just it's okay to have different perspectives and different opinions. And we've got to be willing to trust each other and to hold each other's hands through this journey. So I'm also looking forward to the more detailed discussion or more kind of update. And, we don't have it on our topic today in terms of returning to school. But I am looking forward to hearing the recommendations and hope that the steering committee, the school task forces can continue to take a thoughtful approach. This is a huge planning challenge with a lot of uncertainty. Let's keep challenging each other, pressure testing, be pragmatic, but be aspirational, stay realistic and grounded, but be forward looking and creative so we can get this opportunity, use this opportunity, not only to get back to normal, but back to something better. So that's my hope. So that's all from me for tonight.
Thank you, Sophia. Freya?
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, other board members and all of the public who commented, and Claudia and Stig for their comments as well. I just wanted to say that I'm really happy that we were able to come to agreement with the teachers union, and I hope that we will also move forward with CSEA and others. I just wanted to reiterate my support for all staff getting a very deserved and needed raise. And I hope that kind of helps to put some of that to the rest and also helps set us on a path for, as we move forward in the future, as I think Heidi maybe mentioned, that deep dive into the budget still, a deep understanding so that we all understand where the different parts are. We'll have a detailed look at our interim budget later today, but very happy that the tax revenues were able to come in higher, which again, we kind of saw it coming, but we are always required to have certain assumptions based on county and state requirements. And so I kind of also wanted to clarify that from the past. But I'm very excited about the new numbers, and I'm very excited about the potential raise and look forward to us being able to approve that at some point in the future once it's gone through its county process. I also just wanted to reiterate the discussion about mental health. It would be great to have, I know that we're doing lots of different things. I'm not sure about how all of them have pulled together. It'd be great if maybe at some point in the future we could look at what we're doing and for the public to see and also provide comments if there's anything that they feel like, because I do think it's a time where we have to start thinking out of the box. The mental health stuff that we provided in the past, maybe it doesn't work quite as well without being in a school setting. So I think that'd be a useful topic for a discussion at a future board meeting, as well as kind of the educational impact currently on our students. I think, again, this was also mentioned earlier. And I think it'd be great to see a report on kind of how our students are doing, how our teachers are feeling about where they're at, what added resources we might need. Again, this is all so new. We're all learning as we go. And I think that it's just beneficial to get all of that information out in that kind of public discussion. So those were my several comments. And I just wanted to say how grateful I am for all of the teachers and the staff and the administration and my board members as we keep trying to, and the community and the public. A call out again in our consent items, we'll be approving our Measure M audit. Again, thank you so much to the community for all the support that they've given us over the years. I was asked recently to give a little testimonial for the folks we've used for our parcel tax and our bond campaigns. Having worked on 5 in the past, I just really, really appreciate how much this community supports public education here and how that we're moving into a new economic reality, hopefully with a little more comfort. That feels really good, and it feels really good that our community has supported us in that way. So I wanted to give a little call out for that as well. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Freya. Lizette?
Hi, I'm gonna start mine in Spanish and then I'll say it in English. Can you hear me?
Can you try a little louder or closer to the mic? It's really faint.
I don't even know where the mic is on this. Okay, can you hear me? No? Can you hear me?
That was a little better.
Oh my God.
Talk loud.
I'm trying to yell. Can you hear me?
That's better.
Okay. So I'm gonna start in Spanish and then I'll say mine in English. Buenas noches a todos y gracias por estar presentes, o si no, tomarse el tiempo para escuchar esta junta. No estoy segura si estas son grabadas y traducidas, pero ojalá que sí, porque sé que se ofrecen en inglés, y la gente puede después escuchar la junta. Primeramente, como les dije, gracias por estar aquí, tomarse el tiempo por escuchar y pues desafortunadamente no hemos salido de esta pandemia y estamos todavía tratando de, pues, de seguir adelante y hacer lo mejor de esta situación. Hay que poder acordarnos que es importante que nos recordemos que somos una comunidad y que seamos buenos unos con el otro. Si quisiera, es curioso que alguien comentó algo de que yo no soy, yo siempre tengo mi cámara apagada. Tengo varias razones y una en particular es porque tengo un espacio muy pequeño en mi apartamento, y porque es la junta larga, estoy cambiándome de un lugar a otro para que no hayan interrupciones. Pero yo con mucho gusto, si alguien quiere hablar de esto o se siente ofendido, de,
Lizette, it's gone silent.
escrito porque sé que es importante y no quisiera que nadie piense que estoy tratando de faltar el respeto o no le estoy tomando la importancia que de verdad lo es. Estas juntas son muy importantes y con eso les quiero decir que pues que sigamos adelante y que ojalá que pronto podamos salir de esto y muchas gracias otra vez. I just want to say good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here and taking the time to either be live or listen to this meeting. And unfortunately, I haven't said anything that no one else has said. Basically, we're still trying to deal with this pandemic and trying to put our best best face forward and just trying to do the best with this unique situation. And let's not forget to be nice to each other, and be very just be nice and remember we are a community, and we have different struggles, but it doesn't take away that we're all struggling in one way or another through these times. I would like to, it's interesting that someone made a comment tonight about me never really having my camera on. I think the only board member that has always had my camera off. And there are different reasons for that. And I would like to apologize. I want anyone to think that I am not taking these meetings important, as I'm not taking these meetings serious, because they are very serious and they are very important. And I'm always, trying to participate and do my best as I can. If anyone, feels offended, please reach out to me. I would love to talk to you and explain myself. Not that I have to, but I do think it's important people don't feel like I am not being respectful of, these meetings. And to be, transparent about it, in all honesty, one of the main reasons is I have a very, very small apartment that I share with my entire family. So these are very long meetings, and I'm moving whichever way. I'm just trying to, find a spot where I can focus and be here till whatever time I need to be here. I have been talking to Dr. McFetridge and maybe possibly seeing if I could go to the district office or do something like that. So I just want to acknowledge and apologize for anyone who has felt offended or felt like in any particular way. And I'm always here. If you'd like to talk about it, please feel free to reach out to me. Let's continue to move forward. I think all the other of the board members have basically touched upon everything that I also agree and also sympathize with. So once again, thank you for all your comments and thank you for being here. And let's just continue to be nice and continue to support each other in any way that we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizette. I would like to echo my delight in the first interim financials coming in, being a basic aid district, and actually having the funding to enable the completion of our contract negotiations and the raise. I think that this is well deserved, and it's the right alignment between what the district needed and what the teachers were asking for. So thank you to the teachers and the community for your patience, because we were very much constrained between what the county would even approve had we wanted to give a raise, and not having clear identification of funds available. So we've got the funds, and I think we're in good stead moving forward in terms of long-term planning. So I'm also delighted that our subcommittees have been meeting behind the scenes. A couple that I am supporting are visual and performing arts. Dr. Bhatia hosted this last month with representatives from Cunha in the high school. I'm hoping we can get some representatives from elementary. I've watched, knowing that visual and performing arts is not an extra, it's not an embellishment, it's foundational. And it's an equity issue. Families of privilege will pay for it by the yard outside the school, so it doesn't matter. But the reality is the kids who need it most need to be able to access these experiences within the school system. And if they have access to it, they do better on all of their other academic areas. And so my hope is with stability in the district, we have sustainable programming that knits together between elementary, middle and high school, that we're very intentional about that oversight of the entire ecosystem. The other committee I'm working on is with Mary Beth Alexander, and we have met with a number of real estate analysts and representatives from San Mateo, from the Community College District, just to gather information, to understand how to ask better questions about how we use our surplus property or repurpose different properties. Again, so it benefits our community long term. And I think we're to a point where now we can frame some questions and put out a request for proposal to have someone do the analysis, but we have to get those bids. So that is going on behind the scenes. And I very much appreciate all the public comments that we heard tonight. And I know it's very painful watching the elementary schools be in disrepair, but I am looking forward to making decisions in the spring and moving forward with our elementary campuses and seeing what the architects actually bring back to us there. And obviously there are going to be repairs needed before that happens. The last item I want to comment on, because it was some of Colton's public comment and even Heidi, you know, maybe for slightly different perspectives, people worried about grades dropping. Mary Beth named it in terms of kids being resilient. Some kids, yes, they're falling behind, and I think Heidi's right. We're going to have to pick up the pieces and move forward in a really positive way when things stabilize. And I think everybody wants to work towards that. And so, you know, it may be that it's not just on our teachers, but our community. If families have connections with other families, to see those learning opportunities that aren't just coming from the teachers, but what it takes to, you know, to pick up the laundry and put it in the basket, and take those opportunities to sit down and draw a picture of your favorite holiday, or just parents reading a book to kids. I mean, that's not going to replace the learning loss, but let's look at those, you know, those opportunities for walking around the block or going to the beach. We live in an area where we have access to the outdoors. And so looking for that resiliency, I think, is really important. And to acknowledge that as we do superintendent evaluation, that all of the board members certainly have been questioning, how do we identify those at-promise kids, the kids who haven't shown up for class? I do know that that is happening, and it is not a perfect situation, but I know every single campus is looking to try to catch those kids who might be falling through the cracks. So if you're aware of someone who's falling through the cracks, or a parent is really frustrated, please make sure that they're reaching out to the teachers. Please make sure that if they haven't heard back from a teacher, that they're reaching out to the principals. Because I know that that's how the system is supposed to work, and it's not perfect. And even a teacher doesn't necessarily know when something's been missed unless we as parents bring it to their attention. So thank you, everyone, knowing that we've got different points of view. It's not perfect, but we're all doing the best we can. And Caroline, I look forward to our student board report.
Okay, so first up, I have Half Moon Bay High School. So Half Moon Bay High School is in full preparation.
Can you get a little closer to your mic, Caroline?
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me better now? Okay. Finals will be 100% remote, and they'll be conducted from December 15th to the 18th with a 2-hour time frame for each final. Not all finals will take 2 hours, but the teachers and students have this time if desired or needed, and they wish every student and family a happy and healthy winter break. El Granada Elementary School, so several teachers are participating in the San Mateo Environmental Literacy Training and are creating some lessons around clean energy and ways to save energy. They have incorporated teaching about clean energy with their Spirit Fridays and have shared resources with their teachers. These resources include songs, videos, and stories to use with their students. Together, we can make a difference in conserving the natural resources here on the coast. El Granada staff is looking forward to the new year, and they also wish everybody a happy and a safe holiday season. Kings Mountain mailed out their reports cards yesterday. TKK1 is wrapping up the project-based learning. How do we teachers offer to successfully raise trout eggs and help them understand the importance of keeping our watersheds healthy? Second and third graders are working on creating holiday craft how-to videos and are sharing them with classmates. Fourth and fifth graders are working on food waste group summaries, and sharing out with their fellow students. They continue to work diligently on a draft for the return school plan for 2020 to 2021. La Costa Adult School is officially a high-set testing center. In January, they will begin testing a group of students that they have identified from CUSD who need to earn their high school equivalency certificate. As well, they have a team ready to run the center, and they will open up to the general public beginning in February. This is their last week of classes for the fall semester, and they will return for student registration, which is by appointment only, starting Wednesday, January 6th. Classes will begin January 11th. They are planning to be fully remote for the remainder of the school year due to COVID precautions. Farallon Elementary School. So students at Farallon continue to work hard in their synchronous classes and their asynchronous assignments. During the month of November, Farallon View had 3 days of perfect attendance, during which all students participated in online learning. November was National Native American Heritage Month, and students at Farallon celebrated by learning about the rich culture and history of various Native American tribes. Tomorrow, they set up their first appointment with students who earned a book token by working hard on Lexia. These students will be able to pop a token into their book vending machine, and they can choose a brand new book to add to their personal libraries. On Friday of this week, they will host an optional holiday materials pickup so that students can participate in school-wide Zoom event on Friday, December 18th. They have a fun activity planned for the students, so hope all will participate. Hatch has been busy getting their school and classrooms prepared for when we are able to start our hybrid learning on campus in phase 3. Custodians Alex and Javier have been working very hard with administration to set up and remove the furniture in classrooms following guidelines for safe physical distancing. Their wonderful teachers have been leading their classrooms in remote learning, supporting students at home and in the learning pods, working on report cards, communicating with families, and have been collaborating with administration to begin to ready ourselves for an eventual hybrid return to school. The Hatch office staff have been working hard on connecting with families, supporting students in remote learning, preparing and mailing report cards, and supporting teachers and administration. We would like to acknowledge that the amazing support from the Spanish Immersion Parents Association. Some immersion teachers were able to attend the Association of Two-Way and Dual Language Education Conference. Thank you, SIPA, for funding this professional development to support the two-way bilingual immersion program at Hatch. They also check out the new two-way bilingual immersion logo. You'll be able to see it soon on stickers and pins. They are lucky to have this amazing team at Hatch Elementary, and I feel grateful that they have such a dedicated, hardworking, creative, and collaborative staff and community, and want to thank them for their effort and diligent work. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Dr. McPetridge.
Well, I just want to start by saying congratulations to CUTA for working with us and waiting and persevering. I think that was an important piece of this puzzle. The district has experienced a lot of issues over the last year and a half, and it's been difficult. Last year at this time, we were preparing for millions of dollars in cuts and being told by the county up until June that there would be more cuts needed because of the COVID pandemic's projected effects and a potential recession. We had a clean bill of health in budget-wise in March, and then COVID happened that very next day, and the governor's budget, which was rather rosy, disappeared. And then there were predictions of $46 billion deficit. And again, we were, after we got a May revise, we were stuck with being in a hole again. And it wasn't until late October and then mid-November that we got the results that said that our tax funding was indeed better than was expected because of real estate, because of this county and the economy in this county, and because COVID really hit halfway through that. And so we were delighted as soon as we found that out in November to be able to say to CUTA, hey, let's sit back at the table. And that's what we did. And so we were very pleased to provide an offer, and I'm very grateful to the board for sitting with me and Jesus and for them to authorize our recommendation for a 3% for the 1920 retroactive school year and another 3% for this school year, because with the new basic aid community funded status, we can afford it. And of course, my intent is to sit and negotiate with CSEA and to bring compensation and well-deserved raises to our hardworking employees, to all our employees, CUTA, CSEA, and unrepresented. So I look forward to ongoing negotiations with CSEA. We're still at the table with CUTA talking about the return to school planning. And so that we had a very good and productive session last Friday. And we look forward to working on that to address the concerns that we've heard, because to the points that we've heard from the speakers, this is a very concerning time. Even when we went into the purple, when we returned from the Thanksgiving break, I'll be honest that there were people writing into us, employees writing into us, concerned that if we were in the purple and if we were going to go back to school, that they might need to take a leave. This is a very concerning time for our employees. We need to get this right. I know that it sounds like there's a lot of arguments, but I want everybody to understand that we are working to provide air purifiers in classrooms to address the HVAC concerns we have. The PPE is here, and I was just talking to principals about actually distributing and putting that in places where teachers could see it, so in case they have any doubts about that. The face shields, the desk shields, the plexiglass shields, also ready to go. So a lot of this depends on making sure that everybody is going to feel comfortable, which is very difficult when we're in this purple time. San Mateo County is kind of an anomaly. If you've checked in with Dr. Scott Morrow, he does feel like school should be in session. But if you look at the county, the schools that have been able to get into session earlier are small, affluent elementary schools for the most part. And I was just on the phone call with other superintendents today. This is a strong, rigorous, vigorous debate right now with many people and many boards and many opening school steering committees across the county because of the purple and the concerns. We continue to plan to see if we can bring students back whenever it's safe to do so. And the opening school steering committee has given recommendations on that. Whether that's based on a color code and a tier, we are still working to negotiate our MOUs with our bargaining units and to have all the PPE and all the HVAC and air filtration systems remedied, and to make sure that we can do this safely. Again, we've had a lot of issues. We had to get past our budget crisis last year, and that took us all the way until really October of November of this year. Once that happened, that budget concern is a big weight off our shoulders. And we went back to look for the contract agreement. Today, having heard from Sean Reardon, CUTA co-president yesterday, that the vote came from CUTA and that they passed the vote and ratified the contract. Now we have to go back to the county, submit an AB 1200, Assembly Bill 1200. They need to see our first interim tonight, and then they will clear us to have the board approve that. We said at our table with CUTA that we think in the spring we'll be able to provide retroactive checks. We think this is a good progress going forward. And if we can stick it out and see if the taxes continue to improve, and if we continue to be basic aid and community funded in years ahead, and we really won't know that probably until a year from this time, how those taxes do. But I think we can look forward to having more funding available to us. And that funding can be used for employee compensation for employees who deserve it. It is very difficult for educators to live in the Bay Area. This is a very difficult time. We look forward to ongoing negotiations and turning a page and ending a difficult chapter and hopefully having better chapters ahead, being patient, being resilient, and thinking outside the box. And now the big issue is really this COVID-19 and return to school planning. We look forward to next week having another update from the last meeting that the opening school steering committee had last week. And we will continue to keep our eyes on that going forward so that the board knows what the opening school steering committee is recommending. We will submit a waiver to the county with new plans, with new maps from our elementary schools so that we can get that, but we will not proceed until the board gives us the go-ahead to proceed. I think there is hope ahead. You know, it gave us great hope to see pods and to see more students on campus. I've been very hopeful with the fact that basic aid may deliver this district into a future of more funding stability and funding security. There's work we still need to do on that. And I am happy that Jesus Contreras, our CBO, is leading these ongoing budget advisory committees and having his open office hours. I am hopeful because of the power of our partnerships. Mary Beth Alexander was talking about our partners. We have really good relationships with Ayudando Latinos a Soñar, ALAS, with the Boys and Girls Club of the Coast Side, BGCC, with Cabrillo Education Foundation, with the HEAL Project that we nominated for a Kent Award and recently was honored in the county for their work with us in South San Francisco Unified School District, with our PTO Alliance, with the Coastsiders for Better Education funding, for the Coastside Children's programs. The community has rallied together to make the most of it during this time, but there is more we can do. And we look forward to continue to plan to try to get kids back on campus, to make our staff feel secure with that, and to make sure that going forward, if we have to not do that, that we can. I was talking with principals today and last week about what can we do to bring kids on campus, even if they can't come back to hybrid phased-in learning, perhaps in the secondary grades. I do have great hope for a vaccine. It's unclear whether or not we'll be able to mandate that like the other shots we can mandate for schools, but it is possible. Legislators could make that a mandatory vaccine. We will see where that goes with the government. I am hopeful that architects will be coming in the new year and helping us right-size the plans so that we can address the long-standing facilities concerns that I think the parent brought up and is exactly correct. We need to stop putting Band-Aids. We need to have plans in place, and we need to start doing modernization of our elementary school campuses that need them. And I just want to focus again on how students are doing and how we're doing. I invite anyone to contact me. Colton Walter spoke, and I have spoken to him on the phone, but to Dr. Hughes, to Mr. Rotniewski, to Ms. Lorenko, to Heidi Mills, to Adriana Valentine. I invite everybody to reach out to me if you want to talk about these things. When there are issues and problems of practice that we can address, it would help us so much to partner with you and to hear from you and to be able to work on that. I know that there's much work to be done, and that's an ongoing process, but I want to invite people to do that, and I may reach out to you too. To Heidi Mills, I just want to voice to Heidi, I have gratitude to you too. I know this has not been easy, and you and Ramon Macias as CUTA co-presidents last year really had a very unenviable position of us not being able to give at the table and to negotiate. And I'm glad that we could make good on our promise to deliver to our employees in this way now that the finances are better. So solving the financial puzzle will be long-standing, but we are in a place where the wolves aren't at the door. We have some financial sustainability now. Now we just have to be careful with that. We look forward to ongoing negotiations. We look forward to ongoing planning for our students. And I want to thank all our partners, our critical friends, our supporters, our partners, everyone for helping us get better every day when we work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is item 4, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to pass?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lizette. Aye. Freya?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Lizette?
Aye.
Caroline?
Aye.
Motion passes 5+1. Next on the agenda is item 5A, approval of the 2021-22 student teacher calendar.
So Rosie will be bringing up the calendar for us to view, and Jason Owens he's there to present on this, so I will let him do it.
Good evening, board members, President Hines and Superintendent Fettridge. We brought this calendar forward to the CUTA leadership. The leadership approved it, then it went through to a vote from all of our members, all employees in both unions. We passed it with 177 total votes, 161 yes and 16 no. We will return to the table to negotiate the next calendar for 22-23 this spring. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Just to give a general overview of this, I think this calendar was not hard for people to understand because it is very close to the calendar that we're currently under. And we will go back to the table to negotiate the next one because the next calendar would be very different. But this one, we would recommend approval by the board.
This calendar is literally one day different from the current one. It's very, very close.
Any questions or comments?
I have a question, but so we're asking for approval for this tonight, right? So we need a motion to approve?
That's correct.
Really?
Yes. So do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
So my question, Jason, is what is different? Because I would admit it's hard to see, especially now, and even when I look at it, it's hard to see the.
You're going to ask me about
compared to this year. What's different from this year?
It's one day somewhere in this calendar, and
okay.
At the top of my head, I do not remember which one day it is.
Not a big difference.
To look at it to see if I can identify which one day is different, because quite honestly, I do not remember. I apologize.
That's no problem. I guess my only question is, would there be flexibility at a later time? I'm just thinking kind of like, big picture, creative solutions that might come out of the opening of school steering committees or any of the task forces. Would there, obviously we need to go back to negotiate with our bargaining units, but would there possibly be flexibility in the dates here, knowing, the unusual nature of the year we've had this year?
Calendars are always negotiable. So we're able to go back to our members and say, we would like to do this or that for these reasons, and sit down at the table and discuss those things with our teachers and union members and figure out where that can go. So there's always a possibility of change.
Okay, good. Yeah, I just want to mention that just because normally we wouldn't even need to consider that, but with the unusual nature of this year, to Heidi's comment and to a lot of what I'm hearing from our community and observing as well, just thinking kind of outside the box about how we can fundamentally address the challenges that have come up this year and that often are opportunities for our students in our school community. It seems to be good to have everything on the table at this point. So thank you, Jason.
A couple of the comments that were made when people were voting were, would there be any flexibility for a start date depending on if we are back into some type of normal, quote unquote, typical face-to-face instruction, or if we are going to start remote again, or are we going to have additional days for professional development to make sure that we are addressing any needs that we have in the fall. So, there were some comments about that. So I'm sure that if that's something that we needed to do and, it was agreeable to everyone, we could figure out how to move that forward.
Sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Ultimately, most people know that we would want to take the opinions of educators, classroom educators in particular, and our administrators, and bring that to the table, just like we did this year when we came to you and said we needed to add 2 more days, and then we negotiated that with our CUTA for that so that they could have additional planning. But that's always negotiable. You can always get the union, CUTA and CSEA to look at that, make recommendations as needed, and we would bring it back to you for a vote. But we are seeking approval, and staff does recommend approval, knowing that CUTA and CSEA were good with this calendar.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go to vote. Aye. Freya?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Lisette?
Aye.
And Caroline?
Aye.
Motion passes 5+1. Next on our agenda is item 5B, public hearing for the 2019-20 reopener negotiations and approve as submitted by the California School Employees Association and Cabrillo Unified School District.
Mr. Owens, do you want to explain this public hearing for us?
Sure. The sunshine letter is in the packet from our CSEA union members leadership, asking us expressing to us which pieces of the contract they would like to open. And then our response is also in there, stating that we would be happy to open the articles that they've requested, as well as open a couple of our own. And then upon your approval, we will submit our letter to them officially, and we will start the bargaining and negotiations process.
Thank you. And so point of order for how to open this public hearing, or?
The public hearing is typically so that the public can voice any concerns or agreement with that. And so you would just open the public hearing, and if people had signed up for public comment, then you would hear those comments.
Okay.
Yeah, normally you have a gavel, Kim. Can you make up a gavel?
No gavel. I've got a tape measure. Does that count? There. It's almost a sound. Rosie, do we have any comments for public hearing?
We don't have any comments for this topic.
Thank you. And so public hearing closes. Thank you very much. Next on, let's see.
Also, point of order, do we want to allow for any board comments or questions at this time on that item?
It is a discussion item. You are certainly free to do so.
Do you have questions, comments?
I just have a comment. It's exciting to see this happening as well. And just to, again, can't emphasize enough the critical importance of the many diverse roles we have from our CCA staff and beyond. It's, just thinking, especially during our current times, how important and how critical the roles that our IT staff are playing, how our maintenance staff, it's easy to kind of overlook these roles as well as custodial, but as Ms. Ballantyne's comment alluded to earlier, maintenance is an investment in maintaining, and making sure that our facilities are protecting the health and well-being of our students and our staff. Custodial, especially as we come back, is going to be essential. And I know those are roles that are hard to fill. Food service, or keeping our kids from going hungry, quite frankly. Our front office staff that do everything, and are many of our CCA roles in particular, they're really the glue that that keep us all together, that hold us together. And many of I know it's hard to live on some of those wages. So I just want to acknowledge that, and just say I'm happy to be, as I am, that we were able to get closure with CUTA to be able to have these discussions with CSEA as well.
Thank you, Sophia. Other comments, questions? Next on the agenda would be approval of the first interim financial report for fiscal year 2020-2021.
Good evening, President Hines and members of the board. Rosie, can you please put up the presentation to guide my words for the board? And I just want to preface this by reminding us all that this has been a very interesting year, and that is what I plan to put in front of you. Have that happened also in the fiscal fiscal world that we live in. So the next slide, Rosie, please. And just to remind you that we have the responsibility of bringing to the board financial reports, this being one first interim report after you approved a budget, and by July 1st, now we are bringing to you what has happened from July 1st to October 31st. And with that, we bring a projections of a multi-year projection that will show projections, I underline projections, for what our current situation is now and 3 subsequent years. The requirement is only 2 subsequent years, but for the sake of planning, we present to you 3 subsequent years to ensure that we have a way of meeting all of our obligations fiscal obligations. And I will be asking with information I'll be providing to you that you certify this first interim report as positive because the evidence that I will present to you say that we have the means, we have the what we will take to meet our fiscal obligations. So next slide is one that gives you the variances of what we have had. This timeline that will show up shortly, Rosie, indicates that at the adopted budget, we were still not meeting our fiscal obligations 3 years out, meaning that our reserve would not be such that we could keep that 3%. Now, at the unaudited actuals where you saw exactly what our expenditures and revenue for 1920, we still were not having a meeting our fiscal obligations on the 3rd year out. But then, as Superintendent McPetrich indicated, when we received our estimate of taxes in October, we looked at that and saw that while we were anticipating that 2021 was going to be a year where we would be going back to the LCFF funding, what that means, the difference between LCFF funding and basic aid, it's just basically that when we are community funded basic aid, the revenue that we receive for taxes is slightly higher, and let me emphasize the word slightly higher than that we would have received where we funded through the state, the LCFF. But the biggest hit came a few days later when the county confirmed that at what we called a P1, there was an extra $1 million on the expected revenue. That made the whole difference in the world. Now we would have the means to being in basic aid, and not, but also that we would meet all of our obligations. So I tried to depict that by going from the red to the black. We would be looking then that we are going to be in a position of meeting our obligations throughout this school year. And then in the next slide, then we are telling you exactly how that happens. Accounting for those dollars, now we end up with an end balance. And I have I put the arrows in there to indicating on the unrestricted, just basically on the unrestricted, because this year we had all of the CARES dollars, which are only this year, And that's why I wanted to focus that on the unrestricted, that we have the means this year to meet all of our obligations with a reserve that allows us to offer the 3% settlement that Superintendent McPetrich had worked with our unions immediately upon knowledge of this good fortune of this. We got word of this on November 17, and the next item will show when it was the tentative agreement was reached. It was immediately after. So with that, there was the good faith of immediately upon knowing that we are able to meet all of our obligations through 23-24, as is depicted in here. Then we will be able to afford the raises that came through. Now, as I said, the requirement is current year and 2 years out, but for the sake of looking into the future, we always give you a third year out. So this is our current status of finances as of first interim, and we have the means to meet. The blue down there is a required 3%, and the unassigned is that is going to be allowing us to provide our unions with the well-deserved 3%. Now, this is before the 3%. This is just basically the revenue that came to us at first interim, and once another view of this as we close the agreements with our unions will be brought to you. So this is what has allowed us to provide that increase that now it is signed and ratified. Now, the next slide, Rosie, just is a commentary on what allowed us to do this. That is the increased and tax revenue, and that we also had from 2019 to 20 to 2021, we have had attrition and staffing, and as we were being mindful of all this, that also helped us with savings. Now, we also have the notion of having a basic aid status in declining enrollment. What that means is that we are able in declining enrollment, we have less students with slightly higher revenue. So that helped us being able to invest on our children in a better, with a higher funding than we would if we had. So that this helps the declining enrollment along with our basic aid status helps us in this case. It sounds a little weird that declining enrollment would help us financially, but it is so when we are talking about the basic aid status. We also have had the temporary reductions of STIRS and PERS contributions, which based on the pandemic and based on the legislature's actions that occurred, for the next couple of years, this year and next year, we have a lower contribution that will kick up back again in 2 years out. But for this time, we have that. And then lastly, other factor is that we have had some vacant positions that we have not need to fill because of the COVID-19. We don't have children on our campuses. We are, our teachers are supporting the learning, distance learning, so we have not needed to have those positions on our campus. That doesn't mean that we are not paying every single employee who have been with us. It's just that we have some positions that we are not in need of right now because our students are not on our campuses. And then the next slide, and will get us as to what's coming. As I mentioned to you, on November 17, we learned of that extra $1 million. By November 24, there was already a tentative agreement signed that includes a 3% salary increase retroactive to 2019, 2020, and this current 2021. When I wrote this, ratification of the tentative agreement was in progress. Now it has been ratified. And we also started looking into preparing what is called the AB 1200, which is the disclosure of collective bargaining agreement, which we need to submit to our County Office of Education, whose responsibility is to ensure that we are solvent, that all the districts are solvent. So we prepared this, and this afternoon, Superintendent McFitridge and myself signed it and sent it to the County Office of Education. So that is where it is right now. And hopefully we will be able to get it back soon so that we can continue the process. Once that is, once the County Office of Education concurs that we have the means, when we have the funding to provide this raise, then we will bring it to the board for approval, for final approval. And once the board approves this, then we will start processing retro payments, and we anticipate that being where we are right now and where we will, that it's going to be a spring payment. So we will continue to do this. This is for our CUTA. Once we start the process, as it was on the previous item with our CSEA, we will have a similar process to get through to make sure that we prepare another AB 1200 now for our CSEA employees. So with that, the next slide, we are requesting the approval of this first interim as with a positive certification. And now, if you have any questions.
Thank you. First, do I have a motion to approve the first interim?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks. In terms of, I don't have a, thank you so much for preparing the financials.
Excuse me, Kim, who seconded?
Was that Freya?
Lizette did.
Lizette seconded, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Will those employees who have retired be able to receive that retroactive 3%?
That
They
was
were
already at the table.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that piece was clear. And yeah, that's all I have right now. Other questions, comments?
I have some comments. I am so relieved. I was thinking about this, and this is the first time since I've been doing this job that we have not been in the red and making cuts. So this is the most glorious thing I've ever seen before. And the cuts were hard. So thank you to the staff and everyone who helped make that possible, because the cuts were hard. And we wouldn't be here if we hadn't made the cuts. And also, who would have thought that during a global pandemic, a house down the street from Hatch would sell for over $4 million. I mean, it's it's just insane. So, thank goodness this all happened. But I am a little bit sad as to the reasons why it looks good for us in the future. I mean, the taxes are increasing, which means, prices are still going up around here. And we're also doing well because we're losing students. And as someone who is part of being in the business of helping kids, it's kind of sad to me that we're gentrifying. I mean, families are moving out and people are moving in without the kids, which is fine too, but it is a change for our community, and we're becoming more like some of the communities over the hill in that way. And it also makes me sad to think that, we've kind of hit the jackpot here with our property taxes going up and declining enrollment, even though that's sad. But it makes me kind of sad that there are still other school districts that are still in the place that we were before, that haven't hit it and are still state funded, and that they're struggling too. So it makes me, very aware of the situation, even though we are seeing the light now, that our state funding is still done in a way that things aren't equitable, and that makes me sad. So I'm really relieved to be out of this whole now, and I want to be careful about what we do in the future, but at least I feel like we can have ideas and do things, that we're not just clawing our way out of the hole all the time. So that's all I have.
Thanks. And just to build on what Mary Beth said, living in the Bay Area, until there's some locality index, even basic aid, we're not high basic aid, we're low basic aid. So yeah, we're a bit above the LCFF, but until those funding formulas change for the entire state, the whole Bay Area suffers if we're not one of the high basic aids. So we don't stop those conversations with Sacramento.
It's amazing that we were so low that we're excited to be barely basic aid, really. But we're getting there.
But we're in the black, and that lets us breathe a little easier and know that we can do things that are beneficial for students in our district.
So I'll add as well. I have a few comments and questions, just kind of in that vein. I think, it's clear there's a housing crisis in the Bay Area. With these additional revenues, it's not getting any easier to live here from a cost perspective, and probably got that much harder since June when things started picking up. So I think that does call for advocacy, not only for school funding, full and fair school funding, but also really some more efforts locally in their county, but beyond, to address that housing crisis, because it's only getting worse. And we see we see the disparities growing a lot too. It's, as Mary Beth said, it's the $2, $3, $4 million homes that are going up in price, and it's just making it that much harder for our young students and families to get a foot in the door, and many of our employees too. So I want to, with that, thank Jesus and the team for also fielding the demographer study that we saw previously, because that robust level of information and that investment helped inform solid numbers going into this report, that it wasn't just kind of out of nowhere, we just guessed, we think our enrollment's going to be this, because that's just kind of an estimate, a rough estimate. Real good, solid decision-making with these states that are at hand, which is our school community's future, requires that level of robust analytical framework. So thank you for investing the time and the funds in that, Jesus and everybody, and the board, obviously, because we approve these things. So thank you for all that. And so I just want to check, Jesus, my understanding, this report does not include the cost for the 3% retroactive salary increase, or the 3% current negotiated salary schedule increase for CUTA, which is like 6-point-something% off the basis. No increases shown here, no estimates for CSCA or unrepresented employees. No, I know when our salaries increase, because the pensions are a percentage of that, those will be costs that you'll show at a later date. So here it's just like the normal 2% for the step and column increases, but none of the negotiated for any group. Is that correct?
That is correct. This does not reflect any of the
Because
negotiated.
it's not signed and
No.
done yet. And
I will be bringing to the board as we close each and every one of those, how this looks like once we do each and every one of those.
That's good. And so I just want to say I'm really so relieved and so grateful that, over the past year has been, as you keep calling it, a roller coaster, and it really is. As we got things kind of on track short term, things look good in January. Sean kind of recounted the timeline as you did as well, but it's been kind of a lot of ups and downs. But being in this place where we have some cushion to navigate, we still have a lot of uncertainties too moving forward. We're very grateful to have 1.9 million or whatever the exact amount was from the CARES funding for the pandemic through the end of this month. It's uncertain what and how much we'll get moving forward for that. So having some reserves, and again, this is, why we have reserves, right? So that we can at risk spend some money for the process of continued distance learning, for the process of returning to school. We have some flexibility in how we do that from the funding perspective, because now we're in a much better place than we were previously. And hey, we'll all be very excited and grateful if Jackie Spear and our representatives in the Senate and across the board can get us more funding from the federal government moving forward. And it looks like there's some glimmers of hope for that, but there's still just glimmers right now, and we don't, still have a lot of uncertainties to how we'll come back. So I'm grateful that we have a little bit of cushion, because there's a lot of moving parts right now. So it gives us a little bit of flexibility in terms of how we come back to school and come, again, as I said earlier, just coming back to something even better. That'd be good for everybody. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the Budget Advisory Committee. We've had some really great conversations. It's been a lot of kind of informational stuff so far, but as we pass this milestone of the negotiations closing out and those costs being reflected in the multi-year projections and the budget forecast, I think we'll have some really great conversations with that fantastic group of smart, passionate, collaborative, creative folks to help advise the board. So,
I am very, very grateful to have the opportunity of being with all those community leaders. It's very exciting, their insights and their commitment to see that children get all that they can possibly get is remarkable. I am blessed.
Thanks, Jesus.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. Lizette?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Freya?
Aye.
Aye. Caroline?
Aye.
Motion passes 5+1. Next on the agenda is the presentation of tentative agreement with CUTA.
So I'm actually going to introduce this. If Rosie can bring up the board memo or the actual tentative agreement. In the packet itself, because I'm just going to explain this. We didn't put the tentative agreement in the packet because we wanted to allow CUTA to vote, and we wanted to make sure they voted, and we didn't want that packet that document out in front of the public before they voted, because I wanted to defer to them and show that respect to them. Okay, we did the same thing with our MOU before for coming back to school. This tentative agreement you don't have the signed copy, but it basically says that under Article 2 compensation, which is the thing that we've been wrestling and it's been such a difficult process and a difficult chapter for us. This outlines the tentative agreement, basically that for the 2019-2020 school year, The salary schedule would be increased from the 2018-2019 school year to retroactive to July 1, 2019. And then basically doubling down for this year, offering that 3% because we could afford it and because we do agree that educators and all staff in public school districts, and particularly here, are undercompensated. That 3% retroactive to July 1, 2020. There's a compounding effect, but basically what that means is by the end of this year, you will have ostensibly what is like a 6-point-something% raise. There is a compounding effect. So what we did is we provided salary schedules to CUTA last week so their members could see it at request of their leadership. And we showed a new salary schedule for 1920 that was 3% higher than the previous. And then we took 3% and added it on top of that. And so you can see it's not just 3 plus 3, it's 3 plus 3, but that winds up being 6 and plus change. The hourly rate shall be computed on the basis of Appendix A1. That's $35.84. And that hourly rate shall be effective prospectively going forward as soon as practicable following ratification by both parties. What that means is that the hourly rate for teachers goes up to that number, $35.84, as soon as you approve it. Now that CUTA has approved it, once you approve it, then going forward, we will apply that new hourly rate to employees. There have been questions, hey, is that new hourly rate going to apply to the last year and a half? No, it applies prospectively going forward, just so that otherwise it'd be an accounting nightmare for our business services department. Organizational security, that eliminated Article 21. It was something that was negotiated back in February of last year. And then teaching hours, that was an MOU on collaboration time. Again, that had been done back in March of 2019, and basically outlines how collaboration happens between educators on campuses. And then the, just so you know, the organizational security piece, it eliminated the Article 21 fair share agency fee, had something to do with the laws about bargaining units and membership therein. And so that got moved. And then Article 23, duration and reopeners, basically says that this means that we have a new term through June 30 of this year, and that we've agreed that before March 1, we will sit down again, and that there are some initial proposals that were sort of given by us to CUTA and then countered. There are some things that we were discussing that we want to see if we can, again, align our interests around these carryover subjects, basically evaluation and teacher evaluation, and creating a revision so that teachers and CUSD representatives, CUTA and CUSD, could look at teacher evaluation if there are improvements we can make. Impacts of full day kindergarten, because we've heard there's an interest in that and exploring that. We want to explore that with CUTA. I was happy to see that they brought that back and remembered we were talking about that. And then the instructional periods at the middle school, because there is some discussion that we were having about whether or not there could be actual cost savings and actual more instructional minutes for social studies, mathematics, and science at the middle school, and electives, other courses also. So those are some things that we will be discussing also, but we will come back. We look forward to coming back with CUTA. This is a wonderful moment. Unfortunately, we can't give it to you for approval yet, but this is a wonderful moment. And I was so happy to hear from Sean Reardon yesterday that CUTA had ratified. And we look forward to going through the hoops we have to go through with the county so that we can get our AB 1200 approved. They can say, yes, you can afford it, and we can bring it back to you for approval. In fact, Denise Porterfield, the Deputy Superintendent of Business at the County Office of Education, said, Sean, once you get through this, I won't be in your back pocket. You will know that the county office has worked very closely with us over the last year and a half because of our fiscal crisis, calling FICMAT in. That is going to be much more relaxed, but I'm also happy that Jesus Contreras and others are in this financial advisory, budget advisory committee, and we can continue to look at making sound investments for student programs and services and for employee compensation going forward. And that's basically the tentative agreement.
Can we ask questions?
Yes, I just had to get to the unmute part.
Yeah, there is no motion required at this point to
No
ask.
motion, just, but any questions or comments are welcome.
Question item.
I just wanted to clarify, so this 3% is not taking the place of their regular 2% step in column. It's in addition, is that correct?
Yeah.
That is correct. Only those that move from column that are the ones who take the 2%, those that change column. Not everybody changes column.
I should have said on average 2%.
Right.
That's
Yes.
to say it correctly. So just let me make sure I got this right. So 2019, 2020 employees would get their on average 2% step in column, and then the 3% is on top of that. That goes off of that.
That is correct.
Okay, and then in 2021, they would get their on average 2% step in column raise, and then they're going to get another 3%. That number will be on top of that number.
Yes, it would be compounded. Yes.
Okay,
For
compounded.
those that are advancing from column to column.
Correct. Okay, which is on average 2%. For some, it might be 0. For some, it might be 4.
Yeah, that's always that's a bit of a complicated issue. School districts have step and column, and over time with longevity and years in service, there are increases and you go up a salary schedule, right? It's called steps and columns, or steps and columns. Anyway, I would say that, and I have a sticky note always on my computer to remind us that when this concept comes up, once you get to year 12 on that step and column salary, your salary kind of stays stagnant for 3 years. And in year 15, it goes up. And then year 18, it goes up. And year 21, it goes up. Year 24 and year 27, it goes up. So there is a regular increase, yes, in the step and column. And we average that for a district at about 2% of the cost. But that number is an average that we use for calculation and projection purposes. But I think what I always want to focus on is that this is 3% on top of the step and column. And in most public school districts, when we negotiate raises, we are not typically always messing around with step and column. We're just applying raise on top of all of it.
Okay.
But it's an important point.
I just wanted to comment again, I already did in my public comments, just how happy I am that we've been able to reach this agreement and that we're giving our teachers and hopefully our staff and our unrepresented a very deserved raise. I think it's very, very clear that we do not pay teachers enough in our society in general, in particular in the state of California, and even in this district, as we've been a struggling revenue limit district in the middle, surrounded by other basic aids. And so I just feel really happy that we're able to do this. And I want to thank the teachers and the staff and the community members again for even just the continued eyes on this and encouragement to do what was right when our budget righted itself and we were able to do it. So I feel very happy about that.
Again, as Mr. Contreras said, as soon as he came with these new projections, I basically said, okay, how do you make sense of this? School Services of California worked with us. Our chief negotiator, Greg Dennis, everybody looks at this and says, wow, how did that happen? The county office said, wow, how did that happen? I do think that you're going to see more and more districts in San Mateo County Office of Education become basic aid because of the nature of the county and the income in the county and the property values, as you mentioned, Mary Beth. It is, and Sophia, you mentioned it too, as the community becomes harder to live in, and as homes sell for more, that tax revenue may increase, probably will increase. We won't see it, and we will need to still be conservative in our projections going forward. But this time next year, we will know for sure what that's going to look like for the coming year, or for the year that we've had. So we were very happy as soon as we heard about it. And I take your point, Freya. I remember when I was calling you on the phone and saying, hey, we need to get the board back to authorize a deal. because we finally think we can make movement. I'm just very grateful to CUTA for their patience, for working with us to craft this deal. And we kind of feel like we worked to make good on a promise that we couldn't keep previously. And the numbers came in. And so I'm very grateful to the board. I'm very grateful to CUTA. I'm grateful to the community. I know it's been tough. I know it's taken a long time, but I'm hoping it will be better going forward. And I'm hoping that we can turn a page and have a new chapter.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Hearing none, we'll move to item 5E, public hearing and approval of budget overview for parents.
President Hines and members of the board, the budget overview, LCFF budget overview for parents is one that it would typically be presented at budget when we approve the budget. And this year, it was not at the budget, but it was linked to the first interim. And this is the way it's a form in which we inform, the tool that we use to inform our parents of our LCFF calculated resources and supplemental grants that we receive. So it's a communication tool to our parents that contains in a very, very synthesized way the information that you have in the first interim. So that is what we are asking the board to approve. And this is a procedure, a process that is linked to LCFF, is linked to communication to our parents. And it is basically a very synthesized way to inform our parents of the number of the different resources that the district receives. You see that in this case also includes this year the CARES funds, and it also is informing our parents of what what we have. We did not have a LCAP this year, but what we have is a learning loss and attendance plan. And so that is the information that it is condensed in this 3 pages that we will be using as a tool to disseminate.
Do you have the 3 pages to share with us this evening? It wasn't online beforehand.
Okay, Rosie, do they have this? Yeah, here it is. Okay, so this tool is one that we will have available and on our website and everywhere to let our parents know what is our funding made of in 2020-21. As you see, there are the different categories and the amounts of dollars that the district will be receiving in 2021. So all of this is information is in the first interim, and in the text below is the same information written up, that the amount, the total revenue projected, and then and the different components of the total revenue. Rosie, can you go down on that page? And in here also there is the how of those dollars that we have, what do we anticipate our expenditures in the learning continuity plan? How much money are we going to be spending in there? So that is what we reflect there, and we this is a way of letting our parents know for our students who are in need of extra support, the ones that we are reflected in our learning continuity plan. these are the dollars that would reflect that. And then lastly, on the next page, it is what is the budgeted expenditures for our high needs students in the LCAP in 2019-20 and actual expenditures for our high needs students. As you see, this is a tool to disseminate, a way in which we disseminate to our parents what are these amounts that are dedicated to support the needs of our students that we called unduplicated. It's basically our students in the highest need of support. So this is what this is, and as I said, this overview, budget overview for parents is typically had been typically done at the budget approval, and this year it was linked to the first interim. So this is what it is now, because we did not have an LCAP.
Okay. Before we go to questions, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Sophia. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lynette.
Kim, we also need to hold a public hearing on this item. So should we do the public hearing first?
Sure. I have a question though. Yeah, sure. So we'll open the public hearing. Do we have any comments, Rosie?
And we don't have any comments, but we still need to have it open.
Okay, public hearing closes. Thank you. So on that first page, did that say LCFF funding? I thought in our financials for 2020 to 21, we flipped back to basic aid.
Good question. Good question. We will forever link to the LCFF funding formula. So even
okay, but this is explaining the formula.
Exactly.
Okay.
We will always connect ourselves to the funding that would be LCFF. To if ours comes a little higher, that makes us basic aid, but we always will need to calculate ourselves the support that we will be putting out, like that LCFF supplemental, which 2,162,731 in that one. Those are forever something that we were going to be saying, we are going to be using these dollars to increase and for our students in most need. We're going to be getting actions and services that are going to be increasing the support to our students in most need.
Okay.
So, Jesus, that was my question as well. Can I just clarify? So then moving forward, if the LCFF amount changes or the percentages for the supplemental change, that would also change each year.
Correct.
This isn't a set amount moving forward that we're.
It's not a set amount. It will depend. This is what is called the LCFF calculator, which is how we measured our what it would be our LCFF funding, and then we'll look at it at our tax revenue and say, oh, tax revenue higher. That would have been the LCFF funding. Now, with this in mind, also, what happens if the state gets higher funding? Then that goes higher up. Had, for example, Prop 15 passed, our LCFF status, it would have been, that if they had poured those dollars into the LCFF formula, that would have been higher, and it would have shortened our distance between basic aid and what that is. And it could even happen that, let's say that the state gets thousands and thousands upon thousands of dollars, that it can be higher even. So
And is this a template? So all schools will have something that looks similar?
All districts will have the same template.
So it's just a matter of filling in our numbers to the template that the state has given us.
This is a state template, yes.
That was my only question as well, probably because I don't find it particularly user-friendly, other than the two charts. And the pie charts are kind of okay, but there's, it's disclosure, but it's not a particularly user-friendly way. So I appreciate your continued efforts, Jesus, to get information out to our community in a practical, pragmatic, more digestible way. Thank you.
And I know this isn't the subject of this particular one, but also just to clarify, the actual services provided under the Learning Continuity Plan I'm sure will be presented on that at some other time.
That is a plan that was approved by the board on the September 10th meeting.
Yeah. So, and there'll be updates on that for those specific actions that are referenced in here in terms of the amount of money that will be spent. Yeah.
Yes, that would be linked to that. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. We'll go to vote. Lizette?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Freya?
Aye.
Aye for myself. Caroline?
Aye, can you hear me?
Yes. Motion passes 5+1.
Point of personal privilege or parliamentary order or whatever I can do to get a word in here.
Sure.
When you did the public hearing on the reopener negotiations, we did not get you to vote and approve that item. So we need to have you move, second, and go to vote on that item that you thought that you'd already finished, item B.
Okay, but we already did, when we opened for public hearing, we already had the motion. We just didn't vote.
That is correct.
So we will go back to vote. Let me get the state.
It says discussion.
That is correct,
Okay.
but it is also a vote required for public hearing. So we missed that, and this one just, Rosie, bless her, was pointing out, hey, we didn't get a vote on that.
Okay, so we actually have to vote on B, even though it doesn't say action.
The board does. You've had the public hearing, now you have to vote.
Okay, and did we, Rosie, just clarify, did we actually have an action on that? To approve?
Discussions are called discussion. Public hearings are called discussion, but also we have to approve.
Okay.
So it's an action.
But did I have a motion to approve? I don't think we did.
No, we didn't.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the public hearing for the reopening negotiations for a CSEA?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And we'll go to vote now. Aye. Freya?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Lizette?
Hear me? Aye.
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. Thank you. Caroline?
Aye.
And motion passes 5+1. Thank you, Dr. McFetridge, for catching that.
Thank you for doing that.
Sure. This brings us, sorry, looking at my screen takes me a minute navigating here. Next item is 5F, approval of the purchase of modular portable classrooms at Hatch Elementary to house the CUSD early education program.
So at the meeting, at the past meeting, Dr. Bhatia had presented to you the concept of the early education center at the back of Hatch. So what I'm bringing to you is the purchase, authorization to purchase the classrooms, the 6 classrooms that are in the back that we can utilize to house our early education center, where we would be then building a program. They are building a program that will be connected to Hatch Elementary. And then the cost for those portables, if we were to move them, it would be high. So knowing that they will be utilized to serve that purpose of housing serve our children who will become our students at Hatch and throughout the district. So I bring to you, paying out of bond dollars, cost of buying those portables and authorization to do so. I included the paperwork that gets us to purchase those for $277,000, and when we would be spending $250 some to move them. So I would ask for authorization to purchase those portable classrooms.
President Hines, you're muted.
I love it. Computers will even pop up. You're muted now. I'm sorry. Do we have a motion to approve before we move to questions?
So moved.
Thank you, Freya. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lizette. And so now let's open the floor for questions on the purchase of these portables.
Really more comment. I mean, it does seem to be about equivalent in cost in terms of removing them to purchasing them. And it's exciting with the grant that we got and was presented at the last one, that the opportunities we have for early childhood education. So looks good.
Yeah, and I'll second that in terms of just, it's exciting to see early childhood development taking off. And I'm grateful that you all have been able to work together in your various aspects of that to make it happen, despite the tactical challenges that I know are popping up on your desks, proverbial desks every day with distance learning and everything. So I'm really grateful, because that investment in early childhood education is going to make a huge difference in kids' lives and in families' lives. And it's that investment early up front that's going to alleviate a lot of the stress in the system later on as we get there. So I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful our state is investing in early childhood education as well. They've just released their master plan, as probably you guys caught this week too. Though of course that's going to take a while to get off the ground. So I'm glad that we have this grant, which if I recall is almost $1 million to really bring that program to our community. So it's going to help with equity. It's going to help with literacy. All around awesome. Thank you.
Well, and also the cost to purchase these, is minor compared to the amount of grant that we got. So being able to spend, this amount, which would to support this big grant and it will support it for many years to come. So.
Yeah. Remember, the grant that we brought to you last time was, I think, $971,000. Dr. Bhatia, Rosalba Segura, others worked on this. It will allow Los Listos to move over to Hatch. It will allow special education students in preschool setting to be included with their age-appropriate peers, which is actually a best practice and the law. So this is a great thing to expand preschool education. I'm really grateful to Dr. Bhatia and Mr. Contreras and everybody who was involved with this. Dr. Holly Wade previously was involved with this, Martha Ladd, Rosalba Segura, and there's work ahead to build these programs. But again, it gives us the opportunity to double down again on early childhood education, which we think will be better at the end of the day for our big lift literacy outcomes, getting more students, more early childhood education on the coast that is so needed. Not a lot of affordable options. And we can make a Spanish immersion pathway, extend that, And we can also have that for students with individual education plans. And we can also do Los Listos. And we can also hopefully maybe look at maybe cost sharing where we might do some for pay, I think. And so if families want to have that early childhood education, but normally wouldn't qualify, maybe we will be able to open up spots for them too. So we think this is a win-win. And again, Mr. Contreras, I want to thank you, just like last year with you and Mr. Crawford, when we looked at the CUNY portables and found out that taking them away really costs almost the same as keeping them. Thank you for making that. That's just not throwing away money and keeping an asset. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I do think that this is a wise investment in keeping the portables. And I'm excited that we're going to have this early childhood education program here on the coast side. Not hearing other comments, I would ask that we go to vote. Sophia?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Lizette?
Aye.
Freya?
Aye.
I for myself, and Caroline.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 5+1. Next on the agenda is 5G, approval of amendment to February 23rd, 2015 Memorandum of Understanding between Cabrillo Unified School District and the Coastside Association.
So I will go ahead and introduce this item. If Rosie, if you'll bring up just a memo, I think the memo captures it in my language and my words so that we don't have to drag the public and the board through the MOU amendment itself. We have worked over the last year with our partners, the Coastside Tennis Association. We have a long-standing relationship with them, partnering with them, where in exchange for capital improvements and maintenance that Coastside Tennis Association has provided, we've given them use of the courts for members and for the community. And so last year, we began the process of reviewing that CUSD CTA Memorandum of Understanding to align the interests. And so tonight we present this amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding that we actually worked with CTA leaders. And basically, we appreciate their efforts to document their contribution now going forward annually of $12,000 in exchange for scheduling use of the courts. They continue to not operate and not use the courts when students are using them. They have a specific schedule, and they continue to maintain and provide capital improvements to the courts. And that $12,000 will also help us and help defray the costs that we have on maintenance of those courts over time. And these were discussions that were held between Jesus, me, Half Moon Bay High School Principal John Nazar, and leaders of the Coastside Tennis Association. In particular, I want to thank Val Fernelius and Margie Gator for their work with us. And there's no financial impact to us. $12,000 annually would be guaranteed as a contribution from CTA, Coastside Tennis Association, to CUSD as part of the terms of the amendment. And we would recommend approval so that we can continue in this partnership with Coastside Tennis Association so that those courts can be made available to members of the public in that way.
Thank you very much for that overview. Do I have, before any questions, and action to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Freya. Any questions or comments?
No question, just a comment to thank you, Sean and Jesus and everybody. This is a great progress, I think, as you have been doing on many fronts in many different ways in terms of improved management practices that both improve relationships with our partners in the community in terms of having just things written down. It's just easy to refer back to. You don't work on fallible memories that we all have. So just having these carefully, thoughtfully negotiated in a collaborative way that kind of gets, as you referred to earlier, Sean, like you're always looking for the win-win for everybody. And I think that's really important. It also helps our public, with transparency, the public to just kind of have it out there as well. So there's not, questions on that front too. So thank you for that. Seems like a reasonable agreement. So thank you.
Well, and I think just one more comment you made me think of, just having these agreements also helps protect us too, because, I think we're insured for students' use of the courts and our facilities. And it's protecting us as a small school district that doesn't want to pay out lots of money for lawsuits. So am I wrong on saying that, Sean?
That is exactly right. Look, these MOUs exist to protect the district and to protect the public and to protect the agencies that partner with us. I have long understood the power of partnership and the importance of having our community partners. These are opportunities that would be lost to members of the public because, quite frankly, on the coast side, you don't have a lot of civic amenities like pools and tennis courts and that type of thing. It's a small community. People still want to use them. And you know what? There's ways to share. We showed that to great benefit with the Boys and Girls Club of the coast side. And that was a long process last year. God bless them going through that process with us. And it brings our students great benefit. And the members who pay to the small fee to be Boys and Girls Club members. And they have been phenomenal partners for us to open up for students this year during COVID, and also to do athletics. They've been working with us on athletics, even this year with COVID through the Boys and Girls Club. The Coastside Tennis Association, I don't think as different. They bring benefit to the community. They bring benefit to youth players. They bring benefit to the courts. And they certainly bring benefit by keeping insurance so that if someone was injured, that their insurance would cover that. And whenever we're talking about this, in COVID, for example, at the last meeting, we had this issue come up with people who wanted to use our facilities. We always need a partnership with an agency so they will cover the insurance, that they can mitigate our liability, because that can add up and that could be a huge loss that can't be going to kids or employees, quite frankly. So we thought this was a win-win. And we were happy that Coastside Tennis Association leaders worked with us to codify the contribution they will make annually to us.
And just real quick, I want to reiterate the point on the community facilities. I mean, there is even a law in California, the Community Facilities Act, which I believe was passed in the 70s, which encourages schools to provide their facilities as part of the community. And I agree with you, Sean, in that on the coast, it's a particularly important thing to do. So I understand our need to have more formalized relationships, but I also really appreciate the essence of it, which is that we are using shared facilities and we are all contributing to the benefit of our community.
Freya, you've often mentioned that. I think it's a very important point. It's a small coastside community. Every time I drive by El Granada and I see the population 3,000, I think you don't have the ability to, El Granada is doing a lot of things, Half Moon Bay is doing a lot of things, being able to provide parks and recreation and that type of thing. But we have to work together, and it behooves us and benefits all parties when we can partner together. And I guess my point in the last year and a half has just been making sure that we can sit down with our partners and write down our agreements so everybody understands, the public understands, our partners understand. Even today, I was speaking with a partner and saying, okay, well, let's look at our MOU and let's see what our agreement is, because that's how a rational agency works, and that's how we all protect one another and take care of each other legally. But I think also from a community standpoint, yes, we have to be able to open up when we can. COVID has made that very difficult. We cannot open all our facilities to the public. I was emailing back to someone today who wanted to use a facility. Unfortunately, it's difficult to do so now in Purple, and even our athletes at Half Moon Bay High School, unfortunately, can't use gyms now. The Boys and Girls Club can't use gyms now. When we get back to normal, we want to continue to have these partnerships with the city, with Boys and Girls Club, with Coastside Tennis Association, and with COSI children's programs, on and on and on. We need to be able to open our doors, and then also per the community act that allows people to use our facilities, we need to bring back, and that would be a goal for me in the coming year, to bring back a facilities use agreement to the board so that we update that and make sure that the public and you understand what we will be charging and what we should be charging for use of our facilities.
And I do think we need to make sure it is accessible and not exclusive in terms of community use.
And there are ways to do that. With COVID, that has been more problematic because we have to work with agencies and people need liability, back to Ms. Alexandra's point. But yes, our goal would be to work to make sure that we partner well together and that we have that facilities use agreement and the rates set so that we know that when people say, hey, we want to use your facility, we say, absolutely, this is what it costs for the custodian and this is what it costs to make it, worth our while for wear and tear.
Got it.
President Hines, you approved a Measure M Facility Bond Citizen Oversight Committee report, but do we have Mr. Mike Alifano in the room? Because he is ready to present to you the work that they have been doing. Rosie, if he is.
Well, that was.
It doesn't look like he's there, Jesus, in the participants. And we did it already in consent, so.
Right, but he was ready to present to you if
yeah, I don't see him unless I'm not seeing something right.
I don't see my.
All right, so I cannot see that, so I was just wondering if that.
Sorry, Mike.
Next time.
That's okay. We can always, hopefully in the new year, come back and discuss bond and bring Mike back.
Okay.
And talk about a partner and a community member who has really helped lead that process. We thank Mr. Alifano and all the members of the committee.
Thank you.
So if we're now ready to vote on the approval of a plan MOU with COSI Tennis Association, we can go to vote. Sophia?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Freya?
Aye.
Lizette?
Aye.
Aye for myself. Caroline?
Aye.
Motion passes 5+1. Next on the agenda is approval of board bylaw 9250 remuneration, reimbursement, and other benefits update.
And I will present on this. And Rosie, I would ask if you would bring up the board bylaw 9250. There it is. So this is the California school. Let me give some context and background. Last year, around this time at the organizational meeting, we heard from the board that you would like to be able to consider what other districts do as far as remuneration of board members, compensation for their service. Many districts, I would say probably a majority of districts in my experience, do compensate board members. And in the past, this has not been done, but it was brought to my attention that if we wanted to have the option, and if there was a board member who wanted to take remuneration for their service to the community, it could be done. What you see here is the California School Boards Association policy, and it basically lays out the options. I have filled in one thing for option 2 based on governmental code, but it basically says that governing board members can authorize that they can receive compensation for services, and it's a maximum monthly amount based on the district's average daily attendance. Anywhere, if a district is between 1,000 students and 10,000 students, that monthly maximum, when you set the policy, would be what is listed in option 2, $240. If you chose option 1, and wanted to simply take the maximum monthly compensation, that would be the $240. I just inserted $240 in option 2. You could, of course, say that it's a different amount. Option 3 is voluntary contribution. I do want to make a point here that the board had asked about this and said, hey, you know, for some members, this is a commitment and, you know, what do other districts do? I would say that you can increase this amount only by 5% per year. What that looks like mechanically, functionally, instrumentally going forward is that if you were to approve the maximum that you could receive or that a member could opt to receive at $240, that means next year we'd have to bring another resolution back to update this policy to basically take it to 5%. And $240 is another $12. So next year that would go to $256. And you can see that over time it would go up only by 5%, and you would have to discuss that. I do also want to make the caveat here that the board bylaw does allow, if you were to change your board bylaw tonight, it would allow, and it does not preclude anyone from saying, I'm not going to take payment. So what this does is this gives the board and the board members an option to receive payment if they so choose, or to continue to not receive payment if they so choose. And then also, if a board member was not to attend all the board meetings during the month, they would only receive a percentage of the monthly compensation unless it was otherwise authorized by the board. And that would involve a resolution. And we would then say, well, the board member didn't attend because of official purposes. And then you could just still have them paid, or you would mark down that much. So that's basically it. The board was interested in this. This is certainly your purview. And I do understand the impulse, knowing that most districts, many districts at least, do offer some kind of compensation for their board members if they so choose. Again, this does not preclude any board member from not accepting payment, but it would allow a board member to receive $240 a month. And otherwise, the board policy, you didn't ask about anything else. Any other benefits or anything like that. This is just about compensation tonight that we're bringing per your request last year.
Thank you very much. So point of order, nominally, well, we would have an action to, or a motion to approve. Would I ask for a motion to approve a particular option?
I think you would, right, yes.
So, I mean, for sake of discussion, could we have a motion to approve option 2, which is each member of the governing board may receive a monthly compensation of $240?
I would even say that even though you're the president, Ms. Hines, you could make that motion.
So I would make that, okay, so I will make the motion that we revise our compensation bylaws to allow option 2. Each member of the governing board may receive a monthly compensation of $240. Also recognizing further down, board members are not required to accept payment for meetings attended. Do I have a second? And then we'll go to discussion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sophia. Yeah, this, just a refresher, this came up last year in terms of compensation. And I think in reality, it can be of benefit. And even as we move forward, it's that little bit of well, it's just compensation. I say incentive, but in reality, it's a big impact, not only for the board meeting, but additional hours meeting with the community, working with the administration, doing our due diligence. And so for anyone whose family is impacted, and this helps round out what they're able to bring in for income, I think it's appropriate that it be available to board trustees. And of course, we can certainly have that ability to decline and use our time volunteer-wise if we have the means to do it. Other comments?
Oh, go ahead, Mary Beth.
No, go.
No, I think it's important that we have the option of receiving payment from an equity perspective, because it should be a big role, not only showing up for meetings, but as Kim, you said, there's a lot of work that goes into this, preparing for meetings, conversations with administration and with families and educators, and attending trainings and county events and other meetings. Like, there's a lot. It's at minimum a 10-hour a month job, at maximum a 30-hour a week job. It kind of is like a little bit what you make of it. And I think it's important as far as being able to have members on our board to have some kind of option for compensation, where that is meaningful to a person and their family. I think is important, again, from the equity perspective, primarily. So I think it's good to have the option not to accept the payment not to accept the payment at all, or for missed meetings. Or to have the option to take the payment and reinvest it in our community as they wish, or, use it to support their family. I think, we should set this up in a way that is not transparent, I guess, a way, like make it, I don't know, like, so it doesn't look too bad for one person versus another. In choosing to make that payment, I wouldn't want any stigma associated with that. So maybe that's a matter of implementation, but I would favor the option 2 as well, because it sounds like option 2 is a little bit administratively less of a burden than 1, because you wouldn't have to approve a resolution every year. Did I understand correctly, Sean?
Well, actually, option 1, if you were to choose option 1, the maximum monthly compensation as provided is $240. I guess why I put $240 in there is to just make that more transparent so that everybody understood what that amount was. And so it doesn't say maximum monthly compensation, because nobody knows what that is. This is more transparent. If the education code were to change, but it hasn't in years, if you were to go below 1,000, which I don't think is going to happen, or above 10,000, which I would bet my bottom dollar doesn't happen, then, I just said the $240 because it ostensibly is the same as option 1. It just is more transparent.
Yeah.
Again,
And we'd still review every year.
you could bring it back every year and tack on the 5%.
Right.
You'll see
or
that.
option 2, yeah.
Yeah, on an annual basis, the board may increase the compensation beyond the limit in an amount not to exceed 5% based on present rates. Again, that would mean that if you did that, then it would go from 240 to 252 to 264 to then it's compounded. So, but I mean, it's only going to go up $12 to $15 for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's my mental math, $12 to $20. So that would be something that you would look at every year. But I think whether or not you chose option 1 or option 2, I think option 2 is more transparent for the public to understand what this is like. We could, make a report probably also, if you wanted to make it really transparent, about how many board members, without identifying them, actually took payment, and talking what that cost would be at the end of, the next year. And the other thing I would say is, yes, you would probably want to work by resolution or adopting the board bylaw, so that each year, if you were going to add the 5% and you felt that was necessary, then you would bring it back for approval.
That's great. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
I'll just give some more input on this real quickly. Again, if this is basically going to be anywhere probably between $3,000 and at the minimum, if one person took it, 0 if nobody took it, 3,000-ish if one person took it. And as I remember, it was about $14,500, $14,400, $14,500 if every board member took it. So just so everybody knows what it actually means, it is a small amount of money. Most districts do this. Most districts do pay their board members, and many city councils are also paid for their service, right? So, and to the point, I have to bring that up for Sophia's point about equity. If this were to encourage someone to run for the board who might think that they might not otherwise run because they can't afford to, but if they saw this as, okay, I know it's work, but I'm going to get paid, I think that's an argument actually that resonates with me.
And Sean, to that point, for those people that weren't here a year ago when this came up, that's exactly what came up, is what you just said, Sean. And that was the discussion we had, was about equity and making sure everyone feels like they could do this, because, you know, some people are taking time off work to do some board duties. So what you just said, I think that's kind of what our discussion revolved around last year with this.
I do believe that the board are elected representatives who give great service to the public. And I do think, again, I think the majority of boards in the state, many boards in the state operate in this way, and the law allows it. It is kind of standard practice.
I just wanted to reiterate kind of the equity and also talk about a little bit in terms of diversity of viewpoint. I think that it goes to equity, but also goes to, if you only have certain people running for certain boards and you're not encouraging all members of your community, then you get less diverse viewpoints. So I think that can be a real benefit as well. And I also feel like, given that we're looking pretty good right now, budget-wise, that also makes it easier to feel comfortable doing it, knowing that we're basic aid and providing the raises to our employees, as we've discussed before. So.
Thank you very much. Let's go to vote. Aye. Sophia?
Aye.
Freya?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Lizette?
Aye.
Caroline? Caroline's still muted. Motion passes. Future events. We have our next board meeting December 17th at 7 p.m. The board will meet in closed session at 6 p.m. that evening. And then December 21 through January 1 is winter break, where all sites will be closed. And so certainly a great time to enjoy holidays. January 4, teachers and staff work day, no school for students. And we are not returning to closed session this evening. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Freya. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sophia. Aye. Sophia?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Lizette?
Aye.
Freya?
Aye. We didn't even need a motion to go past 10.
Yeah, I know. This is great.
Well, but of course we have another meeting next week.
That would be
probably why.
We do. But hey, you know,
designed, it works.
Another meeting may be a little easier than us getting punchy after 11. So have a good evening, everyone. Good night.
Be safe.